Matthew over on the left with Amulet Titan. Fourth place on the leaderboard right now. Jim Davis, not on the leaderboard, but a consistent performer, of course, here in the SCG Tour. Both players at 5-1. And like we said, big mana going to war here.
Winning the die roll, definitely a big part of this. Turn 3 Karn versus turn 3 Primeval Titan, I think, is going to be the battle to see who can goldfish faster and do the more powerful thing.
A really, really subtle thing to take note of. Matthew Dilks does not have a main deck Ghost Quarter this week, and that's a big deal in this matchup. Even that one Ghost Quarter can often be a key card. Matthew not going to have access to that until sideboarding.
Yeah, it's huge. I wonder what the reason for that call was.
So when Edgar was on the podcast, we talked a lot about the kind of bullet lands, the utility things you use in certain matchups, and it was his opinion that if you're going to cut one, the correct one to cut is Ghost Quarter. The other ones just have too much utility and too many matchup, whereas Ghost Quarter is very good, it's very narrow. It really only applies in a few of your matchups, and that's why he was willing to send that to the bench.
And it looks like Botanical Sanctum is the land that kind of creeped into the main deck just to get another turn 1 green source.
Correct. That is the shift here.
I can see it, but you end up paying a cost, you know? Like this Ghost Quarter has a lot of value specifically in this matchup.
Yeah, all these tweaks, they're very careful, very subtle. They have ripples. I can't tell you how many times I've been playing a match with Amulet, and this isn't even on a tournament basis. This is a match-to-match basis where I'll want a card, and I'll be like, oh, I sideboarded that out because I didn't think it was very good here, but it turns out in this one situation, it's absolutely perfect and exactly what I need.
Right. So Jim started on 2 Tron lands and could not find the third one in time, so has to settle for Ancient Stirrings instead. And no Tron land in those top 5.
No, also not finding Tron land. Plenty of payoffs there. Big spells for sure. But that's not what Jim needs right now. He needs a way to complete the trifecta, get his large mana online.
To be fair, he's got some time. Dilks did pick up an Amulet of Vigor off of his Ancient Stirrings, but it doesn't seem like he's going to explode anytime soon.
Doesn't seem that way,
Doesn't
Jerry.
seem
You said
like
that
it.
exactly right. Doesn't seem like it. But Amulet Titan, one of the most explosive decks in Modern, of course.
Another bounce land and Azusa next turn, and
Things change quick.
yeah, he could be off to the races, but we'll see.
Jim just going to pass the turn back. Only 3 mana in play. Dilks considering options here. No, there's an Amulet in hand. Having a bit of a think is Dilks. You see these Amulet players are often quite automatic with their decisions. They know this deck so well. Dilks finding a complicated one here. It is going to be bounce land. I would put a big bet that means we're seeing Azusa here as that bounce land comes back to hand. 3 mana floating presently. It is Azusa.
Okay, so 2 land drops remaining. That's only 4 mana.
Yep. Here's a Gemstone Mine. And does Dilks want to replay a land here, or does he need to hold a bounce land in hand presently? Looks like it's going to be Bajuka Bog. Cleaning up Jim's graveyard. Obviously not mattering very much. But next turn, Dilks is going to have access to basically all the mana in the world. Did Jim find his Tron piece? It's a walking ballista. With no 4th land in hand. Not even going to be enough to pick off that Azusa here. There's an Ancient Stirrings. Okay, that could change things. Davis going to go ahead and fire that off. Looking for the mine here. See a tower. Did not find the mine, and you see a shake of the head from Jim Davis. Knows he's handing the turn back to Dilks in a very vulnerable position.
Yeah, went through 20 cards or so. Couldn't piece together one of each of those lands.
This is Tron life, and Jim knows it well. Sometimes this is just how it goes. If you're going to be there for the turn 3 cards, you got to be there for the no Tron piece in the top 20 cards.
If you can't handle Tron at its worst,
right,
you don't deserve Tron at its best, I believe is how the saying goes.
Yeah, something like that.
Jim doesn't look happy about it.
No.
I don't think he deserves those turn 3 cards.
I don't know. He's been through it so many times. I think he would acquiesce to it at this point. Here's an Oblivion Stone. That does mean Jim will be able to clean up anything that happens here, but as we know, Amulet Titan often, even if it doesn't kill you, it virtually kills you, finding redundant copies of its key cards.
Well, this is one of those turns where if Dilks had Primeval Titan, but couldn't cobble together 20 damage necessarily, he would at least be able to have access to a Ghost Quarter.
Right, you're spot on. And that's how this could slip away from him. Let's see if he even has access to the Primeval Titan. We don't even know that fact as it stands right now. You always assume it with Amulet Titan because there are so many redundant copies, but we don't know that.
I mean, Dilks gets to start the turn with 4 mana. He has an Azusa, a Bounce Land in his hand, so that's 10 mana total.
Right.
Surely something has to happen on this turn.
We don't see a Talaria West. That's often a key piece in these situations. So I wouldn't say it's guaranteed.
Black Mana's got to mean another Amulet of Vigor's coming down.
Yeah, this Consternation means one of two things. It's either, can I kill you right now, or uh-oh, my draw didn't work out. We'll have to see which one it is here for Dilks. We're going to cast Summoner's Pact.
So Black Mana floating, 2 land drops remaining.
Yeah, it was can I kill you right now, think. That's what was going on. With 2 land drops left, the answer just might be yes. If you get Talaria West here alongside a bounce land, be able to transmute that for another copy of Summoner's Pact right away, get another Primeval Titan. The problem is...
It's still only 6 mana.
The problem is the Boros Garrison is on the battlefield right now. And that's what really complicates things here. So if you have to get Vesuva now, you may not be able to double strike in the future. There is the Vesuva. It's going to copy that Boros Garrison. These 2 lands are going to untap. They're going to target the Primeval Titan. So we are going to head back into the library in just a moment, but I don't think we're going to find a kill here given the setup. And this is where the cost of that, not having that Ghost Quarter, is going to be tremendous because Jim's going to get a chance. It's not a great chance. He's going to get a chance, though.
No, I mean, realistically, all Jim needs is any 5th land to be able to blow the Oblivion Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dilks is stuck paying for a Summoner's Pact and might not be able to rebuild on that turn. And then Jim has yet another shot to try and hit a Tron land, so.
Right. Yeah, Dilks doesn't like his options here. Thinking about returning that Vesuva to hand. Instead, it's going to be the Slayer's Stronghold, it looks like. Is going to go ahead and activate. There you see Azusa and Primeval Titan rumbling in. Time to go back to the library. We're going to find 2 more lands. Not going to be Ghost Quarter. It's just going to be Talaria West and a bounce land. Two land drops left. We can still go get Pact of Negation next turn, but we're not going to be able to pay for both packs, so that's no good.
Right. I think the plan is to just Vesuva bounce land, pick up Talaria, and transmute for another Summoner's Pact for maybe next turn. Yeah, should still have 10 mana next turn.
This is one of those complicated puzzles that Dilks is going to bring back to the Cabal and say, what was I supposed to do here?
How did I blow it?
So we're in second main phase now. Dilks using 3 mana here. Still 2 land drops left, remember. We're going to return that Talaria West to hand. See Dilks using dice to keep track of his Azusa land drops.
Yeah, I love the shortcuts that the Magic community picks up. Like when everyone figured out that you could just turn Wirewood Symbiote upside down, Wilderness Reclamation upside down. I've literally never seen someone use dice on their Azusa until this weekend, and I saw Dom use it the round before.
Right. Now everyone's just locked in. Looks like we're getting engineered explosives here. That's an interesting one. Here's Bajuka Bog.
It just has to mean that Dilks has a backup, right? A backup Primeval Titan?
I would assume so. Just going to play explosives on 3 and pass the turn to Jim. Jim breathing a sigh of relief, I think, there. Does not find the 5th land. Disbelief on Jim Davis's face. I think he's both amazed he got that turn and disappointed it didn't work out.
Right. I don't know what you expected, though, really.
It's going to be Ballista on 2. And just passing the turn back to Dilks. It's going to go ahead and pay for the Pact. And Davis is going to go ahead and take out Azusa, taking care of any additional land drops. There you do see another copy of Summoner's Pact in Dilks' hand, ready to go.
It's awkward because the Vesuva and the Slayer Stronghold are both in hand, though.
Correct, and he was banking on that Azusa to allow him to bring it out. Here's a Primeval Titan attack.
It's fine. Like, you don't actually need the second Titan now. You can just get the Sun Home, double strike the Titan, and that's good enough.
There is the Sun Home. There is the double strike. That's going to do it. Matthew Dilks, an unorthodox path, but able to take down Jim Davis, fade a few draw steps there. Maybe got a little lucky to get away with not having that Ghost Quarter in the main deck this week. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at sideboards for the players here. Going to start with Dilks. There you see 4 Path to Exile, differing from Edgar, who had 3 Path to Exile and a Celestial Purge. 2 Negates, 2 Engineered Explosives, 1 Tireless Tracker, 1 Reclamation Sage, 1 Ramonap Excavator, 1 Pact of Negation, 1 Hornet Queen, 1 Ghost Quarter, and 1 Chameleon Colossus. What do you think Dilks is doing here?
I recommend the Ghost Quarter.
Good choice.
Also, Ramonap Excavator to go with the Ghost Quarter.
Another good choice.
I also like Pact of Negation just as a little bit of counter magic. Also combos with the Hive Minds, which are pretty good in this matchup, I would think.
Yeah, they're fun.
Rex Sage seems okay. Tracker seems okay. Negates seem pretty good.
Yeah, I like Negate a lot. I do like the Hive Mind Pact here. I think you just want to basically combo kill your opponent as quickly as possible. Sometimes that combo kill is actually Ghost Quarter. Other times, something like Hive Mind is fine. It's very much a race. There's not going to be a huge amount of interaction between the two players. Meanwhile, over on Jim Davis's side, you see 1 Dismember, 1 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Spatial Contortion, 3 Thought Not Seers, 4 Nature's Claims, and 4 Thragtusk. Jim Davis super high on that card right now.
It's really good against Phoenix.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
How many Nature's Claims do people normally bring in against you?
Too many is my answer generally.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think you want some, but the full 4 is kind of, they're too narrow. They don't do quite enough. You do want to maybe pick off an amulet in the right spot, but you don't want to be Nature's Claim flooded. However, Thought Not Seer, excellent here.
Yeah, Thought Not Seer is excellent. The other stuff I was looking at were the spot removal spells to shut off Sacro Tribe Scout or Azusa potentially.
Can do that.
And a lot of the reason for that and the Nature's Claims is that Jim has a lot of cards in his deck that are just not great. Things like Ugin, Walking Ballista's okay, Wormcoil Engine's like kind of medium.
Yeah. Yeah, Jim with 4 copies of Wormcoil Engine in the main deck this week. I think very much hard targeting the Phoenix matchup and doing so successfully thus far.
Yeah, I like 4 Wormcoil at the moment. It just seems really smart. It's so good against almost everyone, maybe not against Amulet, but even then, it's still reasonable.
Yeah, as the format narrows and congeals around Izzet Phoenix, you get to make more and more informed decisions. And if you're curious what the correct decisions are going to be for your next tournament, one of the best places to find out, the SCG newsletter, of course, where you will be emailed some of the hottest hits from the SCG website, highlights from our best articles. We'll also keep you informed about upcoming SCG Tour stops. Invitational qualifiers, we talked about how important they are as far as player points go. You're going to want to be participating in those. We'll let you know where they are. We'll also tell you about SCG Game Night if you're looking to just have some casual fun. And the best part is it's all free. You can sign up over at go.starcitygames.com/newsletter. They also mail you a different picture of me every single week.
And ironically, the article is about Living End being back from the dead.
Yeah, it's not.
Well,
It's not.
This is old. This is old.
It's very old.
Time has passed.
Yes.
Living End is again dead.
Yes. It has re-died. Maybe it needs something like Living End to reanimate it from the graveyard. We'll see. It's this never-ending loop where Living End is always dead, then alive, then dead, then alive. Get it? Because that's how the
sounds
card kind of works.
Like not a great way to live.
It's not. It's a difficult way to participate in Magic tournaments. I don't advise it for anyone. Instead, live that big mana life. Do Amulet Titan stuff.
Big mana's almost never bad.
It's hard. It's hard for it to be bad. I do think, like, if it's being hard targeted, it definitely has some ebbs to its presence. But you look at how long Tron has been a part of the modern format now, going back to the early red-green base builds. It just hasn't really gone anywhere. Sometimes it tapers off a bit, but it's there. You're going to face it once every tournament for sure.
In my case, when I'm playing things like Jund and Grixis.
Right.
I'll play it like 3 times a tournament. Or Mardu, that was another big problem.
The word goes around when you start playing those vulnerable decks. Us big mana players, we all talk about it and say, why don't we just beat the crap out of Jerry?
It's not surprising.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone's conspiring against me a lot of the time.
Good, I'm glad you feel that way.
It's the only way you could beat me anyway.
Okay.
So.
I like that confidence. Davis taking mulligans here. But this is Tron. We mulligan. It's part of our life. Jim, however, not super pleased with the 6. Little consternation on the face. I think Dilks kept 7.
Thankfully, when I played Mardu Pyromancer for the first time at PT Bilbao, I played against Tron twice in the tournament, but somehow those players got tricked into playing Eldrazi Tron instead of actual Tron.
Ooh.
So I was able to beat them.
Don't see much Eldrazi Tron these days.
Probably a reason for that.
I think so. Davis is going to keep 6. Going to lead on power plant. Also the best power plant, so points to Jim for that. Dilks, meanwhile, Sakura Tribe Scout.
How do you feel about Tempest Forest?
Okay with it. Any old border forest I'm okay with. So Davis going to be looking to set up turn 4 Tron here. We'll see if that's going to be good enough. Is going to go ahead and get the mine. Already has tower in hand. Dilks going to untap. Sakura Tribe Scout at the ready. What does Dilks have to offer here? Gemstone Mine. Just passing the turn back to Jim. No further play. Jim going to go ahead, spend a green mana, cast an Ancient Stirrings. Take a look at the top 5.
No attack, at least, from that Tribe Scout. So at least Dilks has stuff to do.
Representing something. See, maybe he found that one of Ghost Quarter right in the opening hand. That'll simplify this game a bit for him. Chromatic Star is going to be the pickup for Jim Davis here. Deploying that onto the battlefield. Follow up. There's the mine. Going to go ahead, crack Star. Green mana floating. Draws Ancient Stirrings. Nice life. Already had one anyway. Take a peek at the top 5 here. Looking for a payoff now, I think.
Just finds a bunch of Nature's Claims.
Nature's Claim flooded. What does Jim want to take? Going to have access to 8 mana on the next turn. How can he leverage that? Going to grab an Ulamog here.
Gonna save that one for later, I think.
Right. Well, that can be a backbreaker. Dilks going to go ahead, activate that Sakura Tribe Scout, get a bounce land into play. Heading into this turn with a bit more mana. I feel like the way Dilks draws his cards, he's always looking for something off the top. He does like kind of that little rub on the table where he's like, come on, give me a little luck.
Whenever I play and I actually need to draw something, I'll just draw the card as fast as possible because I want to know if I got there or not.
You want to get it over with?
I don't want to like give myself this moment of terror where I don't know if it's actually going to happen or not.
You're not in it for the sweats, huh?
I mean, I like the sweat. I like the fact that it exists, but I still want it to be done, you know? I want to find out if I got there or not.
I hear you. Dilks 3 mana floating here. Looks like we are going to transmute that Talaria West that we just found off the Ancient Stirrings. What's the pickup? Summoner's Pact. Very interesting. Could have been Ghost Quarter. Instead, it's Summoner's Pact here.
Could have been Pact and Negation, too.
Could have been Pact and Negation. Very good point. With access to that Tribe Scout, would have been able to pay. It's got to give Davis a think, right? You got to consider what Dilks is up to. You know he could have gotten Ghost Quarter, has Sakura Tribe Scout at the ready, and chose not to. What does that mean? It's up to Jim to figure it out. Jim's going to cast Ancient Stirrings.
It's just possible that that Telerio West was Dilks' only piece of gas.
It could be. Davis going to grab a tower. That means after this turn, we'll have access to that Ulamog. And on this turn, the play, it's Karn. Big play here from Davis.
Yeah, so -3 on the bounce land is potentially risky if Dilks has another bounce land.
I still think it's the best play regardless.
It still sets him back, for sure.
Dilks does have another bounce land and goes ahead and moves it to the front there. Gonna cast it. Return that bounce land to hand. Mana neutral. Now, what can Dilks put together on this turn? I think he ripped an amulet off the top.
I think so, too.
Whew, that was the best possible draw, quite frankly. Davis says, yep. You got it. And now we know he has Summoner's Pact. Again, sigh of relief from Dilks.
So you have a land drop, a Sakura Tribe Scout activation.
You're going to Primeval Titan.
That's 4 mana.
It's going to have haste. It's going to attack. It's going to get Ghost Quarter if you want.
I think that'll be the follow-up, probably. It's awkward because of how Jim sequenced laying of his Tron pieces, where he didn't show Dilks that he had a tower then found it off Stirring's last turn. So Dilks might actually just go after the tower.
He might. He might. Be interesting to see. We know what step 1 is. It's going to be Primeval Titan. See Dilks still having to think. Wants to make sure to get this just right. A lot of moving pieces, a lot of options.
Oh, no. So he made his land drop and the Sakura Tribe Scout activation.
Mm-hmm.
So the Slayer Stronghold's on the battlefield, and I think the Vesuva's in his hand.
Oh.
So he can't give the Titan haste this turn.
Okay, so he's just got to go probably get Ghost Quarter as soon as he casts the Titan, I think.
Yeah, but that means the Karn's going to live, too.
Yeah, and that could mean he's out of gas.
Nicholas Wright. Open competitor Nicholas Wright. If you are in the room, please come.
Very interesting. This is the kind of difficult situations you can get in with this deck sometimes. And this is where deck knowledge really pays huge dividends, understanding what you can do when you're trapped with your Vesuva in hand, when you don't have access to your Slayer's Stronghold.
Makes me always just want to add a second Vesuva to the deck, but it comes up, I think, in reality very infrequently, but it seems like it's frequent.
I think that's because of the impact when it does happen. It completely, fundamentally changes how you have to play so many games. And there you see Talaria West, Ghost Quarter. That means Karn's going to do work, and it's going to be really, really important what Dilks targets here. Obviously, the default in most cases is Tower. Tower makes the most mana. That's why players are inclined to target it. Where you are lacking other information, you don't know there's a redundant copy in hand, you're kind of incentivized to go that way.
So if you start with a mine...
Oh, there it is. It's on the tower.
Yeah. If you start with a mine and then you Sylvan Scry for like the power plant or vice versa, does that make it look like you have a tower or not? Because generally tower is like the last one that you want to get because it makes the most mana on that turn, so you could use it to cast something like Oblivion Stone.
Yeah. A lot of mind games. You have to think about what your opponent is thinking about. Unfortunately here, Dilks did not get the right choice. There is another copy of Urza's Tower sitting in Jim Davis's hand.
Jim with the gotcha.
There it is. Sheepishly reveals it to Dilks. Had it the whole time.
Needed a surgical extraction to go along with that, I think.
That would have cleaned up some problems. Davis, access to 9 mana and a World Breaker in hand. Maybe we want to Sylvan Scrying. Gonna take care of Primeval Titan. Could scry for Sanctum of Ugin here. Nope, we're just going to tap 9. Here is World Breaker. Going to eat that amulet. There's the Sylvan Scrying. There's the Sanctum. That makes sense. Jim knows what he's doing on his next turn.
It's Ulamog.
Yep. Gonna have to pay for pack now for Dilks, and this one might be about over.
was all about that Ghost Quarter target.
Yep. That and the fact that Vesuva was in hand
Well, yeah.
really conspired against Dilks here.
Well, Dilks ripped Amulet, so was lucky in that regard.
Very true.
Unlucky in that he had the Stronghold and the Vesuva.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe unlucky in his Ghost Quarter choice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to assess that to anything besides luck.
So it's back and forth, you know, some instances of good luck, some instances of bad luck.
Such is the big mana mirror. Especially this particular big mana mirror.
I mean, you could also chalk it up to Dilks being on the draw because he won game one in a game where he also got kind of lucky,
yeah.
you know? So.
Wait, are you saying there's a lot of variance in these games of Amulet Titan versus Tron?
No.
This is the most skill-intensive matchup in all of Magic, right?
I think it is skill-intensive.
Look, every matchup of Magic is skill-intensive. I firmly believe that. There are varying degrees, though. And I think a lot of times your hand dictates what you do in this matchup. But it's in situations like these where you need to make some really critical decisions. You have to get those decisions right.
Right. I think there were decisions to be made. It's possible that Dilks could have ended up with Slayer Stronghold on the battlefield earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe that would have alleviated some problems. It's possible that he could have mulliganed more aggressively, kind of like what Jim was doing. You know? Like there's still a lot of decisions to be made.
Absolutely. Here comes that World Breaker. Going to go ahead and rumble across the battlefield. Smashing for 5 damage. Davis going to go ahead, play that Sanctum. It's Ulamog time. Going to go ahead and exile 2 bounce lands here. See if Dilks has an activation from the Tribe Scout to save 1. Does. Vesuva going to bounce one of them to hand. And we're going to exile the other one upon resolution.
Dilks also has a Pact of Negation that he transmuted for last turn off of Teleria West, so could potentially use it this turn. Should still have a Gemstone Mine in hand that he could put onto the battlefield upkeep with the Sekiro Tribe Scout.
He is going to go ahead and use the Pact of Negation on that Ulamog. Davis still going to get to resolve the Sanctum of Ugin trigger.
Just get another one.
That means more Ulamogs next turn.
And now Dilks is in the unfortunate spot of the Amulet player that has to play packs in running turns, and it taxes you too much.
Yeah, it doesn't feel great. And there you see Dilks paying for the Pact. Going to go ahead and take a draw here. Another Gemstone Mine enters the battlefield, but Davis says, how about another Ulamog? And there it is, and that is going to be quite enough for Matthew Dilks. He's going to go ahead and scoop up his cards, and we're going to have a Game 3 in this big mana mirror.
With Dilks on the play.
Yep, a great spot for the Amulet Titan player to be in. Very little interaction from the Tron deck in the first 2 turns, and you can just blow the Tron deck out of the water, quite frankly. You are a bit faster, as we saw round 3 when Edgar won the game on turn 2, dealing 32 damage.
I think if we actually went to damage, it would have been 28.
That's right, there was a blocker.
Maybe he forgets to assign Trample.
Presenting 32 points of damage.
Yes.
We'll say that. I don't think any real changes to be made here on the player draw. You could say that like negate gets better when you're on the draw possibly, and you have to be put into a more defensive position, but I didn't see either player reach for their deck to make adjustments here.
No, Dilks had negates in that game. He had one in his hand at the end, but Jim Davis was only presenting creature threats, basically. And
yep.
From Jim's side of things, I don't think we ever saw a Thought-Knot Seer. We did see a few copies of Nature's Claim.
Yeah, Jim just had all the big hitters there. Able to put together Tron on turn 4 and then start dropping bombs left and right. Karn into Ulamog. Classic Tron stuff.
Combo finish.
Yeah. Very consistent combo deck is Tron. Both players drawing 7 here.
You're right about with how Dilks draws his card. I saw him draw his 7th card like
Always with a look of consternation.
with a little sweat.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what he was sweating about. Has the turn 1 Amulet of Vigor. Davis, though, is going to have turn 3 Tron this game. He's got the Expedition map, has 2 pieces, has Karn in hand. He's basically ready to go, and the pressure's on Dilks here to be able to put something together real quick.
Well, Dilks has got something.
Yeah, it's a second Amulet, and it's going to hit the battlefield.
Now what?
Do we have Bounce Land? We have Bounce Land. That's going to make 4 mana. Coalition Relic. Sakura Tribe Scout. Okay.
Well, Dilks has basically all the mana in the world.
He will make a Primeval Titan next turn if he has that.
Yeah.
Davis just going to pass the turn back here.
Access to 11 mana if Dilks wants it.
I think the draw there was a Bounce Land. Do we have the payoff in hand? Going to go ahead and take that counter off Coalition Relic. 1 green mana floating. Keep in mind, this Titan will not have haste again. Slayer Stronghold on the battlefield. You can set it up other ways. I don't think he'll be able to get a kill, though, unless he does some nifty amulet magic, which we might see here. There's 5 mana floating. Bounce Land triggers on the stack. It's going to come back to hand.
So no land drop remaining, but Sakura Tribe Scout activation is still there.
Here's the Summoner's Pack. That's going to go get a Primeval Titan.
6:30 Modern for our players. Your pairings have been posted next to Gathering Point Flash. 6:30 Modern for our players.
It's tapping the Stronghold right versus Coalition Relic.
Looks like it, yeah. And let's see if we're getting a Vesuva here. Have to assume so. Yep. Here's Vesuva copying Slayer's Stronghold. Going to go ahead and give that Titan +2/0 twice, I believe.
Sure, and then you can pick up the Vesuva and then just Tribe Scout it back.
Yep, he's got it. Assuming he doesn't have one of the other pieces in hand.
Right.
That's the other wrinkle.
I mean, worst case scenario, you can still get a Ghost Quarter. That sets Jim back a turn, and then you're still fine.
Yeah, also, like, if there's a Dismember, it might throw off the math a little bit, so you might just play it safe. And here we see a Ghost Quarter, followed by Forest. I think this is fine. I think this is just safer, exposing yourself to less risk.
Jim's facial expression every time.
Jim falls to 10. Dilk's going to go ahead and cast Ancient Stirrings. Finds another Coalition Relic. Going to activate that Sakura Tribe Scout. Get that second green source onto the battlefield now, so it's not going to get picked off in upkeep. There is the Bounce Land. It's going to make a bunch of mana and return the Slayer Stronghold to hand. Another Coalition Relic enters the battlefield. Plenty of ways to make green mana now.
Amulet of Vigor, the card, is busted.
It's a silly card.
1 mana.
Can only do busted things, too. It's never done anything even remotely fair. So Davis just going to go get the 3rd Tron piece. He says, I'm in my upkeep. I'm going to draw. And Dilk says, all right, we're going to go ahead and deal with this right now.
Not going after the tower this time.
Right.
You can keep it.
He learned a lesson. He's now a power plant guy.
What you got, Jim?
I think the better question is, does it matter? Is there anything
No.
Jim could have here that matters even the slightest bit? Going to go ahead and play Chromatic Sphere, crack that, take a look at the top card. It's a Sylvan Scrying. So he'll be able to put Tron together again if he so chooses. That assumes he gets another turn, and I don't think that's going to happen. And there you see Jim just says, I have these cards. They're not any good against what you're doing presently.
Yeah, Jim was always going to have Tron, basically. It was just a matter of whether or not Dilks could kill him before he got to play a big thing, or if Dilks could even just like slow him down enough.
Right, and it doesn't take a lot, right? It just takes that one Ghost Quarter in one spot where you have a clock that's so ruthlessly efficient and just ends the game in 2 turns. Yeah, just get him off what he's doing for 1 turn. That'll be enough.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's the matchup. Very swingy, as we saw. It could go both ways. It's kind of just about who does their thing first. But I think if you were just rating the thing on terms of raw power, Amulet's a little bit more powerful, a little bit more flexible. And if they go off, they're going to win the game every time.
When Amulet of Vigor is involved, absolutely, right? But I do think that if the game goes long-ish somehow, Tron has inevitability. They do have like the more powerful things. But yeah, Amulet a little bit more explosive, kind of able to get under him.
Right, and Dilks with some fine draws there as well. Multiple Amulets on several occasions. So Matthew Dilks defeats Jim Davis. Jim Davis picks up his 2nd loss. Dilks cruising right along, only 1 loss. We do have some time shifted magic for you. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in about 3 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the booth here at SCG Cleveland in round 7, brought to you by Ultimate Guard and Okie Dokie Dice. I'm Brian Gottlieb, Mr. Jerry Thompson next to me. We just saw the big mana mirror decided by fate mostly, but also some really explosive Amulet Titan turns. Matthew Dilks taking down Jim Davis. We have a match of an entirely different flavor this time around. It's a cool one though, kind of an interesting pressure point for the format. We're going to be looking at Izzet Phoenix in the hands of Stephen Mann, taking on Zan Syed, playing War Prison. We saw this matchup a bunch last time we were in the booth. We kind of thought maybe the Izzet Phoenix decks had evolved past being preyed upon by the War Prison decks with the addition of Pyromancer Ascension.
Right.
We're going to see how it plays out this time. Why don't we head down to our time-shifted match.
Last time we saw this matchup, it was in the hands of Zan.
Yes, it was.
And look, Zan has 2
Picking
draws.
up a couple draws again is Zan.
He even has Thopter Sword in his deck. He has a win condition. I suggested last time that he plays a Clock of Omens or a Time Sieve to actually be able to kill people. Looks like he didn't do that.
He did not listen. He does have an awesome sideboard card, though, which we'll talk about when we get to sideboard cards. Zan just leading on Talaria West here. Stephen Mann going to go ahead and cast a cantrip. Stephen Mann, of course, random drooler on Magic Online. If somehow you don't yet have him blocked, you have certainly been treated with some colorful language from him on Magic Online. Consistent winner on that platform.
And when he loses,
it's not pretty.
He lets you know about it.
Yes, he does. Mann going to go ahead and cast Faithless Looting here. Zan got a couple of key cards on the battlefield pretty quickly in the form of Welding Jar and, of course, Thopter Foundry, his kill condition.
His kill condition that takes 10 turns.
Yes. But it's an infinite combo. Kind of. Is it still an infinite combo if it's gated by mana?
No.
I think we call it an infinite combo, though, don't we?
No.
No?
You might. I don't.
Oh. Guess that's on me, then. More cantrips over on the side of Izzet Phoenix. This one's a Serum Visions. Looks like we're going to keep them both on top. Passes the turn back to Zan. Zan just building some mana. Has Ensnaring Bridge in hand, I think.
And Word of Invention. That's likely going to find the rest of the combo.
But here's Pyromancer Ascension, one of in Stephen Mann's deck. Only one copy of Pyromancer Ascension. A key card here, though. But we saw this kind of play out a lot last week. At some point, Thopter Sword is going to get out of range of that Pyromancer Ascension with no main deck way to answer an Ensnaring Bridge. It just becomes too much at some point for the Phoenix decks. They have a hard time with this matchup in game 1, to be sure.
Yeah, especially with Zan having all this main deck hate. It's like, gets the Tormod's Crypt, man, slow him down, slow down the accumulation of counters on that Pyromancer Ascension. And that Crackling Drake's going to be big, but it doesn't have Trample. It's not going to be able to do basically anything against these Thopters.
You are correct. And Zan's life total going to be building the entire time.
Now last week, or 2 weeks ago, in Cincinnati,
2 weeks ago,
we saw Zan play very carefully around Surgical Extraction in these spots.
Yes. 2 copies for Stephen Mann in his deck. Players just discussing War of Invention a little bit. Stephen says, oh, that seems like a pretty good card. Then, yeah, I like it a lot. It's good. I wonder if we're looking at a judge call here. That was quite a length of time, especially when it was sped up.
Yeah. Do we have any Thopters?
So we do have a couple of Thopters on the battlefield in the form of Jeremy Noel and Stephen Green. They're backed up, of course, by Ensnaring Bridge. That card's not going anywhere, protected by Welding Jar. Not that there's main deck artifact removal anyway.
Nah, some players are playing an Echoing Truth or a Set Adrift in their main deck.
Set Adrift I have seen quite a few times.
S-Man, not messing around with any of that stuff.
No, neither of those cards present.
This game is basically just about whether or not man can chain together cantrips to turn on that Pyromancer Ascension and just kind of go off from there.
Right, and it'll take Zan a long time to win from this point, like because he's going to play very carefully around Surgical Extraction, almost certainly. But there does reach a point in inevitability where there's just not enough damage left in man's deck to actually win.
And I think we're actually there with him discarding the Lightning Bolt. He does have 2 copies of Snapcaster Mage, I guess. But realistically, I think you need to hold on to those bolts. Like, those are the only way that you win.
Here is a Whir for 4, I believe, from Zan.
What are we getting? Witchbane Orb?
It's got Bottled Cloister. Do we have Witchbane Orb in the main? We do. So that's an option as well.
That just locks it up unless your opponent has one of those cards, right? A Set Adrift or Echoing Truth.
Yeah, I wonder if Steven would just scoop in that instance, showing the Witchbane Orb. It's going to be Bottled Cloister instead, though.
Bottled Cloister could be anything.
Strange little card is Bottled Cloister. Basically a draw engine for this War Prison deck that also exiles your hand on your opponent's turn, so they are definitely not going to be able to attack.
Zan Syed, also a draw engine.
That's true.
An unintentional
2 of them
draw
thus far.
engine.
Well done, Jerry.
Thank you.
That was more in my range. I'm proud of you for doing that one.
So, Pro Tour Charleston. I'm going to start telling stories because nothing is going to happen in this match.
Right.
Pro Tour Charleston 2006 was the last team Pro Tour that they had in a while. It was also one of the biggest Pro Tours that they ever had. And it was OG Ravnica block constructed, Team Unified block constructed. And one of my teammates, I was on one of the ends, he was on the other end because I didn't want to deal with either of my teammates. I didn't want to sit in the middle, you see.
Okay. So well chosen team, by the way, but continue.
Yes. So my teammate on the far end had a judge call. I didn't want to get involved in it. I just wanted to ignore them, play my match, and he ended up getting effectively a game loss and a match loss because of an incorrect judge ruling.
Okay.
And it was all surrounding Bottled Cloister and what happens to your hand when it's under Bottled Cloister and your opponent Dream Leashes it.
I don't even want to guess what the outcome is there.
Well, you're supposed to get your hand back.
Okay. And your teammate did not? Is that what happened?
So he was the one playing Dream Leash Copy Enchantment, and Dream Leash is you gain control of a tapped permanent, and Copy Enchantment you could copy the Dream Leash and take anything. It didn't have to be tapped. And you could take hexproof stuff, you could take Simic Sky Swallower, all these nonsense cards, right? So I think, or no, so his opponent had a Bottled Cloister. He was thinking about whether or not he would Dream Leash it, and he wanted to know if his opponent would get his hand back. And I think the judge told him that he would, and he's like, well, I can't beat this person's 8-card hand or whatever.
Okay.
So I think the hand is supposed to stay exiled.
Well, in the interim, that game ended. It was won by Zan.
Of course.
As we basically knew for quite a while there. Just there's nothing Izzet can do in that spot. They have lost the game effectively when Zan has set up that stuff. Like we said, game 1 is a nightmare. Games 2 and 3, though, get a lot better for Izzet Phoenix. If you want to go ahead and take a look at the sideboards over on Cardboard Live, you can. Over in Steven's sideboard, we see 3 copies of Ravenous Trap, 1 Shatterstorm, of course, key in this matchup, 3 Blood Moon, 1 Chandra, Torch of Defiance, 1 Surgical Extraction, 1 Shattering Spree, 1 Abrade, 3 Spell Pierce, 1 Threads of Disloyalty. Jerry, what do you like here? Beyond the artifact hate, obviously.
Yeah, there are 3 cards that say destroy target artifact. 3 of them that say counter target artifact unless it's controller base 2. So I like those cards. Chandra is also pretty nice. Depending on how deep you want to go with sideboarding, you could also potentially mess with Blood Moon. This is like another place where I think Molten Rain would be stronger than Blood Moon. Like Molten Rain I would just snap off as a card to include.
Right.
But Blood Moon might not be worth it.
I could buy that. Meanwhile, over on Zan's side, we're looking at 1 Muddle the Mixture, 1 Torpor Orb, 1 Swan Song, 2 Psy Master Thopterus, 2 Tezzeret Agent of Bolus, 2 Battle at the Bridge, 3 Unmoored Ego.
And slow down. Slow down.
I gotta collect myself. Give me a second.
3
here.
of an exciting card.
So, if you watched us in Cincinnati a couple weeks ago, you know Zan Syed in his sideboard had 1 copy of Jester's Cap, and I went absolutely nuts. One of my favorite cards of all time. This week, Zan has 3 copies of one of my favorite cards of all time. Also from Ice Age, That's, of course, Zur's Weirding.
We're going to have to pull that one up. No one knows what that card does.
We can't, because we're doing a time shift and match, but they could look at it over on Cardboard Live. I'll tell you what it does. It's a 4-mana enchantment. You get to look at the top card of your opponent's library when they would draw it, and if you want to pay 2 life, they don't get that card anymore. I think that's the answer to Shatterstorm. I think that's what they're looking to do in most instances. We'll see if Zan has it here. Zan going to go ahead and lead on Spellskite. Steven, no plays across the first 3 turns thus far. Finally, we're going to go ahead and do something. It's going to be Thing in the Ice.
Couple of 0-4s.
Just staring at each other across the battlefield.
Yeah, you might think that the Phoenix deck is going to get Pyromancer Ascension active. They're going to draw a bunch of cards. Like, isn't that Zur's Weirding going to get painful? But realistically, they only have like 6 cards in their deck that actually matter.
Yeah, and that's why we saw Jester's Cap last week. You just have to keep them from resolving Shatterstorm, Shattering Spree, Abrade, essentially.
And Snapcaster Mages.
And Snapcaster Mages, correct. So we'll see if that's a route Zan wants to go. I know last time we saw Zan, he was bringing in Psy Master Thopterus in this matchup. He was bringing in Tezzeret, Agent of Bolas. Are there enough slots to account for something like Zur's Weirding? We're going to see.
I believe it. I don't think you put 3 copies of Zur's Weirding in your sideboard on accident. I mean, that is another card that could be very, very strong against Tron, for example.
Mm-hmm. And there you see Psy Master Thopterus on the battlefield right now. Meanwhile, on Steven's hand, he thought Blood Moon would be good here. It has come in.
I don't mind Blood Moon.
It's going to stick here. Zan, with a basic island in play, has access to some blue mana. Here's a Mishra's Bauble. That's going to trigger Psy Master Thopterus. Put a 1/1 into play. A couple of copies of Sword of the Meek in hand. Don't really want that one in multiples.
S-Man, Sword was in play literally last game. Why are you reading the card?
Might have changed. You got to check it out. Going to go ahead and crack that Bauble. Turn goes back to Steven. Bunch of cantrips in hand. Ready to do Is It Phoenix stuff, including flipping that Thing in the Ice almost certainly this turn. There you saw Spell Pierce on the top of Steven's deck. I think he's going to want that one to stick around.
Yeah, probably. That's a pretty good one when your opponent's stuck on 3 and a lot of the problematic cards are 2 or 3 mana.
We're going to go ahead and cast Manamorphose here, generate a little bit more blue mana to fuel some of these other cantrips. But here's a Swan Song targeting the Manamorphose.
We've seen this a decent amount. Counter magic getting used on Manamorphose to really stunt the development of these Phoenix decks.
I think it's been right in most of these instances.
Yeah.
That seems like where you want to target this deck. And also, I would say the most common Thoughtseize target turns out to be Manamorphose in most instances.
Yeah.
People talk a lot about Faithless Looting as a potential ban. I think I'd rather see Manamorphose go, quite frankly.
It should just all go.
Just start over.
Just scrap it.
Reboot. Well, I don't think everything in Modern is going to be banned. I have a feeling something will stick around. Meanwhile, Zan facing down now a Swan token, a Bird token, excuse me, 2/2 Bird. 2 Sword of the Meek in play, waiting for that Thing in the Ice to flip. Steven probably able to do so at his leisure. Here is Thought Scour. That is going to go ahead and take that last counter off Thing in the Ice. And there go all the tokens that were on the battlefield. Awakened Horror getting its beat on, crashing in through that Spellskite. Here's a Chalice of the Void on 1, attempted by Zan. Steven thinking about a response, has a Spell Pierce. Zan, though, with 2 mana available. Steven just going to fire off a Thought Scour in response. Chalice at the ready. 7 more damage coming in from that Awakened Horror. Zan's Sword of the Meek flooded. Classic Sword of the Meek floods.
He needs some Faithless Lootings.
You would appreciate that. Here's a Welding Jar. Here's an Ensnaring Bridge. Okay. Spell Pierce, gonna point to that Chalice of the Void. No good, Steven. Not today. You're not sneaking that one by me. And now, Steven just forced to pass the turn back. Here is Zer's weird. He just turns it over
Yeah.
to Steve and says, go ahead and read that. You've never seen it before, I know.
Also, this is definitely not the correct Oracle text, but
Yeah, it doesn't play like it reads there whatsoever. I think it's now like a 0 activated ability is the correct Oracle text or something like that.
sure.
Something completely goofy. But either way, Zan's going to have the option to deny Steven access to basically what matters at this point is Shatterstorm. He's going to want to keep that out of Steven's hand very desperately. One of the wrinkles we forgot about Zer's Waiting is it applies to all players. So Steven also with the option to deny Zan's draws as well.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter all that much when you have Psy and 3
It
Sword
does
Uniques. Like, you have this sick engine.
Yes.
Only access to 1 blue, so that kind of cuts things down because of the Blood Moon.
Yeah, both players also play with their hands face up, and that's why you see hands face up on the battlefield right now. What a strange, strange card Zer's Weirding is. Appropriately named.
So we saw Blister Coil weird.
Yeah, it's been a weird weekend thus far.
Now we see Zer's Weirding. What is going on?
Very weird. That'll never get old to me, by the way. So this one's going to languish for a bit, but this game might just be over, quite frankly. Looks like Zan cashing in one of those Sword of the Meek. Let's go ahead and draw a card. Steven always with the option to say, no, I don't think so.
So play that case.